Hello everyone, welcome to Aquascopic. So I've been getting a lot of interest in one of the videos that I posted about cost-effective planted lights, and there were some questions around do I do the CO2 injection, do I use fertilizer, etc. So I thought maybe I can make a quick video on my setup, at least in terms of the CO2 setup, show you the tanks and kind of tell you about how and if I'm using the CO2, and maybe can kind of give you some more information in terms of what I think and from practical experience if we really need CO2 or not. So I thought I'll kind of capture a video around this. And if you like the content, please do like, share, and subscribe. So here we are. So this is one of the CO2 cylinders that I have for one of the tank. As you can see, it's a simple cylinder. I think it's a 5 kg cylinder, and it's basically showing 2 meters. One basically is what is the psi in the cylinder. So I think it's showing about 50 kg per centimeter square. I think that's the measurement. And sorry, my hands are a little shaky because I'm trying to also read what's written. And the other dial, let me just show you which dial I'm talking about basically. So this dial here shows about the total pressure that is in the cylinder, and this dial shows what is the output pressure. So the output pressure is really 2 kg per centimeter square. I have connected this with a solenoid. Um, so this is the solenoid, and the reason I've connected with the solenoid is because I really want to automate it. If you are setting up a planted tank and if you want to have a CO2 injection, you can do without the solenoid as well. But the solenoid really helps if you want to have it automated. So I run the CO2 for 8 hours, and I don't really want to switch on, switch off on a day in, day out basis. So I use the solenoid because it helps me then connect with the timer, which I'll just show you in a bit. So this is basically the CO2 cylinder I have. Yeah, simple. And I need to replace it, I think, once every uh, 2 months, 2.5 months, because based on the amount of CO2 I inject into my tank, I need to kind of replace my CO2 once in every 2 months, if I'm not wrong. And this cylinder is connected with is connected to my 400 liter tank, and I'll show you the video or a picture of the tank in a bit. So yes, so I need to really keep filling the CO2 every 2.5 months basically. Now I would show you the timer. I think I have already shown this timer in one of my earlier videos as well, but I'd quickly show you the timer as well. So here we are. So this is the timer. And again, so like I said, this timer kind of really helps me to control various things. So I have kind of set the timer in such a way that every morning it switches on before the lights turns on, and it switches off a couple of hours before the lights really go off. Maybe I'll do a review of this timer in a future video, but I've been using this for almost 3 years, 4 years without any problem. Now coming back to the tank itself, you can see that the CO2 is kind of being injected here. I'm using, let me just try and zoom in and see if it's a little clear. So I'm using this kind of a setup. It's basically connected to my wave maker. And obviously looking at the wave maker, it's a little unclean, so I need to clean it up as well, but I'll do that in the near future. But this is made of ceramic. It's not very clear. I think I'll not be able to capture it properly, but this is made of ceramic and it really breaks down the CO2 in very small bubbles. And the bubbles are also very fine. I'm trying to zoom in, but obviously you'll not be able to see it at all. The bubbles are so fine. And because it's connected to this wave maker, it gets distributed throughout this tank. So this is the 400 liter tank that I have. And you can see that the plants are growing pretty nicely here in this tank. Um, So yes, it's a simple setup. So for this tank, I use CO2, and I've shown you basically the cylinder, the solenoid, the timer, etc. And the quick trick, as far as I am concerned, is that I have kind of put the outlet of the CO2 near to the wave maker, so that when the wave maker is turned on, it really circulates the CO2 to the entire tank, into all nooks and crannies. So all the plants, even towards the back of the tank, where the probably the light is less, also would kind of grow really lush and green. Yeah. So maybe you can use similar kind of tricks in your tank as well. So now we are sitting in front of the other tank I have. So here also you can kind of look at the plant growth, and you can see that the plants are really lush. But if I were to come down to where the cylinder is kept here, you would see that the cylinder is really out of CO2. Let me see if I can somehow. Yep. Um, with the flash turned on, you'll be able to kind of see it better. So you can see that the CO2 has really run out, and it's really run out for almost what do you say, a month or more than a month. But I don't really bother filling this tank up on a timely basis, because the kind of plants that I'm growing here, uh, and going back to the tank itself, the kind of plants that I'm growing here really don't need much of a CO2 injection. So most of the plants are Crips, Anubias, etc. And they really prefer low light conditions. Even if the CO2 is not there, they're able to extract the CO2 which is available in the water, etc. So for this tank, I don't really bother filling up the CO2 on a regular basis. I do inject the CO2, but it's not as regular as the other tank that I'd shown. Um, Now I'll kind of go take you to my third tank, and kind of tell you how the setup is. So now this is the third tank that I have, and as I'd shown previously, here you can see a lot of plants, mostly Anubias and Java moss. But if you look at this tank, there is no CO2 injection which is happening. Um, but yet the plant growth is really nice. So the Java moss is really thick and lush. I trimmed it the other day, and you can see that the Anubias is growing really well as well. Right now the shrimps are feeding, so they're enjoying their daily food. Let me just see if I can. Yeah, so they're feeding and they're enjoying and chilling. So this tank, like I said, doesn't need a CO2, and I don't inject the CO2 as well. So if I were to summarize the whole video, and if I were to answer in a simple um, way, if we need a CO2 or not, then the answer would be something like yes or no. And yes, we would need CO2 if we are trying to grow complex plants that need highlights, that needs CO2 to grow. But if our aim is to kind of grow simple plants such as Crips and Anubias, and there are a few more that doesn't really need a lot of light and CO2, then we don't need CO2. So the choice of CO2 injection is really yours. It really depends on the type of setup that you want, the type of planted tank that you aim to keep. Um, you can really go for a low tech setup, and there are a lot of good aquascaping channels that really outlines low tech tanks. I myself have two low tech tanks, like I just showed you. But if your aim is to keep a high tech tank which has a lot of, let's say, red plants and a lot of other plants that need a lot of fast growing plants, like a lot of stem plants, etc., then you definitely would need CO2, because otherwise if you don't inject CO2 and you give light, then it would only cause algae bloom. Or if you don't give light and CO2, then it would just cause the plants to not grow properly. So it's a very complex matrix of light and CO2 and the type of plants that you want to grow in your aquarium. I hope this video was informative. If there are any questions, please do leave your questions in the comments, and I would try to either answer them or make a follow-up video on this topic. Thank you so much. Please do like, share, and subscribe.